Welcome to the Stay Grounded podcast, brought to you by Java Press Coffee Company. My name is Raj Jana, and I'm the Chief Brewing Officer here at Java Press, where we help people make daily happiness a priority using the coffee we love. I interview people from all walks of life to discuss happiness, success, fulfillment, and ways to infuse it all into daily life. I want to dissect different thought processes and turn them into powerful insights that empower you to stay grounded and make daily happiness and fulfillment a reality. So thanks for joining me today. Now, let's get to grinding. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Stay Grounded podcast. My name is Raj Jana, and I'm your host. And today, I am sitting with an incredible human being and my personal trainer, actually, Edward Bryan. Edward, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So I want to give a quick bio on Edward and some of the things he's done over his life and why I think he's such an amazing person to have on the show and all the things we can learn from him. So Edward's 28, and at the age of 17, he was 380 pounds and diagnosed with hypertension and a heart condition called atrial fibrillation. Since that age, he's pretty much started an 11-year journey that taught him to improve every part of his life through diet, movement, discipline, and he looks absolutely phenomenal today. And he's helping other people do the same. So I just love being around Edward. He's a super positive energy and vibe, and I think that he has a lot to share. So Edward, without further ado, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience and just get you going, man.
All right, man. Yeah, my name's Edward. I'm a personal trainer at a gym called C4 Athlete in Houston, Texas. I've stumbled into that place after kind of being lost. You know, when I was 17 and diagnosed, I took all the medicine that all my doctors prescribed. I think at that time I was on 6 or 7 pills or something. And I was young and I was like, cool. I didn't really, no one talked to me about prevention or what I had to do. Just get on the meds, of course, lose some weight, but I just kind of got on the meds. It made me feel better. And I just kept about my business. But at that time I was partying all the time and I didn't really care that I was so heavy. And I didn't really care about this harrowing experience I had with my heart condition. I just kept going and it really didn't hit me too heavy till I was about like 22, 23 when I had my worst episode of atrial fibrillation that really made me step back and go, what am I doing with my life? What AFib is an arrhythmia in which the top chamber of your heart stops beating within a rhythm. So I like to explain it. It's like my heart feels like a washing machine when it's happening. It's like,
wow,
there's just a bunch of erratic craziness going on in my chest. And another side effect is it causes a response called RVR, which stands for rapid ventricular response, where the bottom chamber of your heart starts freaking out if it tries to keep up. And what's dangerous about that is the blood flow to your organs starts to slow down and you get lightheaded and all kinds of stuff. And so for whatever happened that day, it was really bad. I went to the ER. Usually when I'd gone to the ER when I was 17, but I was kind of in and out. They were like, yeah, this happens. It's weird because you're so young, but here's some meds. You're fine now and go about your business. But that time when I was 23, I went in and they were like, yeah, we can't convert you. We can't get you back to a normal sinus rhythm. I think I was there for 19 hours. It was uncomfortable. And when they can't convert you through chemical means, they shock you. Like, you see in like the movies.
Wow, yeah.
And so I was freaking out, they were getting ready to convert me like that. And I don't know what happened. Like right when they were about to wheel me out of the room, I popped back into a normal sinus rhythm, and they were like, a lot of things had to change for you. And one of the thing that stuck in my head was they were like, you're going to have a heart procedure, heart surgery. And I was like, is there any other way I can do that? Because, at 22 years old, getting heart surgery isn't it was scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the cardiologist they had assigned me was like, well, if it were him at that time, at that age, with those symptoms, he would elect for the surgery. And so I was like, okay, can I have more information about it? And he was like, yeah. And then he prescribed me to 2 medications. One's called Xarelto, which is a blood thinner, and another one called Multac, which is an antiarrhythmic. And so when he gave me those 2 things, I I read through the pamphlets, and they both had like textbook pamphlets. And I was like, man, both of the side effects on these are horrifying. And Xarelto is a blood thinner that was fairly new at the time, and it didn't have an antidote. So the danger there is, say I get in a car wreck and I have a bad cut. I'm just going to bleed and bleed and bleed, and there's nothing that can be done immediately to stop the bleeding. And the only option is to have a blood transfusion. So you'd have to have response there immediately, get lifeline it out of there. And I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
And so I was like, I need to figure all this out. And so what I did was I got home. I was like, all right, I need to lose the weight, because the weight wasn't helping my heart. I had high blood pressure. I was on all kinds of medicine, and I was like, I need to figure out how to do this. So I just went online, and I got in on a bunch of forums. The AFib community was really cool. What's funny about AFib is it's the most common arrhythmia amongst people over 70. And it's incredibly rare amongst people under 30. So
wow,
I'm in like this weird anomaly situation.
Of course, yeah.
When I was talking to people, they were like, well, it's weird that you're so young, but this is what I do. This is how, and they all had kind of the same story. Yeah, they told me about the procedure, Multac, all these different medicine. And what I learned through talking to them was that it seems to be hydration dependent. So AFib is like a short circuit. You have two nodes in your heart that regulate your rhythm. They're like natural pacemakers. And whatever triggers your AFib means that there's an electrical impulse that's not firing correctly, and different things can trigger them. And so some people, coffee triggers it, some people, alcohol triggers it, some people, extreme exercise triggers it. And so, everyone that I was talking to was saying, if you could find your trigger and then mitigate that, you can tend to have a better quality of life, and maybe you don't have to jump into the procedure or jump into more medicine. So I was like, okay. So I was thinking back, and anytime I drank or if I partied with friends, it never really happened. I was like, coffee didn't really bother me. Chocolate triggers other people. And I was like, I like chocolate. That never really bothered me. So as I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, all of my episodes seem to happen 2 to 3 days after I've partied a little bit. And if I had like not drank a lot of water. And so I was like, So I started like really thinking about it every time it was triggered. And I was like, yeah, it seems that when I'm low on hydration, something is up. So I was reading the best supplements to kind of help regulate the electrical flow from your brain to your heart. And magnesium was a big one, and calcium. All the electrolytes are huge. And so I started supplementing with magnesium, and then I stopped having palpitations. So I still get them every now and then. They're called PVCs, where that feeling where your heart skips a beat or beats,
Yep.
have an extra beat.
Yep.
So that happens to me all the time, and I just thought it was part of my life after I got the diagnosis. And they're pretty benign; they're not that dangerous, and most people don't feel them. Everybody gets them. It happens when you like change position or walk upstairs. But I was really sensitive to it, and after I started taking the magnesium, they kind of disappeared. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And so I found a hydration powder by this company, Vega. It's like this vegan.
I know Vega. Yeah.
And they make a hydrator that had no sugar. And so I was like, cool. I didn't want to take Gatorade all the time. And so I started supplementing with that every day, twice a day. And I had no episodes for a while. And the reason I chose the no sugar one is to kind of backtrack is as on my journey to lose weight, I had my doctor had prescribed me to eat every 2 hours, low fat, high, lots of whole grain diet. And it worked. But I kept yo-yoing. So I'd lose weight, and then I'd gain weight, and then I'd lose weight. And I was tired of eating bulgur wheat and, oatmeal and stuff like that. And so one day I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and a guy named Dave Asprey was on, and he was talking about high fat and bacon and butter and eggs. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, cool. I mean, I like eggs and all those things, but I thought I can't have them anymore. And so I went to my doctor with all this information. He told me I was crazy. I was like, well, I would like to try it out. Can we take my blood work today? And, in 6 months, we'll see where I'm at. And my doctor's been super cool. He's been my doctor since I was like 13. He's been my primary care forever. So we have a cool relationship. And he was like, well, I'm going to tell you one thing. What's going to happen here if you go eggs every day, bacon, butter, whatever, your cholesterol is going to go through the roof and you're going to be on another medication. And I was like, okay, but what if that's not the case? And he was like, I'll quit my job. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. And so, and so I went on this journey, and I didn't add any movement in right away. At first it was all diet. I was scared to get my heart rate up naturally because of my AFib. Because it's just like a mental block. And so I was like, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to do anything that's going to get my heart rate up. This was really uncomfortable. And it actually caused panic attacks like early on. Like if I felt my heartbeat, I'd like start freaking out. And so I just went high fat, low carb. I cut out all grain. I cut out all added sugar. And I was eating eggs and bacon every day and spinach and broccoli. And within the first 3 years, so I'm 28 now. I started around 23. Within the first 3 years, so I was about 26. I lost around 100 pounds. Like
good
so,
for
I
you,
lost
dude.
ish with the low grain stuff and the yo-yoing, but then the rest all came off high fat. And I was like, whoa. And so, going back to my doctor, he was like, this is insane. This doesn't make any sense. He still tells me that, by the way. And I go to him twice a year every year. And he just couldn't understand it. And I didn't really get it either. I was like, whatever, it worked and I liked it. And the thing that I loved about it is with these high grain carbohydrate diets, you crash. And that's why you have to eat every 2 hours. Your glucose drops and then you're kind of bogged down and I need another pick me up. And it was like that roller coaster. I was dependent. My energy was dependent on my frequent meals.
That's amazing, man. I think what impresses me most about your story is you kind of, for lack of a better word, hacked your way away from conventional thoughts from people who seem to know what they're talking about and started just testing and tweaking until you found a solution that works perfectly for your life.
Right.
I'm beyond impressed by that. What kind of, I'd love to kind of dive into that part. So what kind of mindset did it take for you to start getting comfortable with the idea of like almost testing on yourself?
Well, I guess like the way I was raised, the way my mom raised me was she never gave me like a concrete, like if someone tells you to do this, then that's what has to happen. She was always like, if you feel that there's another way, or if you could figure out another way, then go for that way. So with that mindset, I had issues in school. Like I had issues in high school with they said I had authority issues, and I would ask teachers questions, and I wasn't just sit there and be like, okay, yeah, well, I was always curious about things. And from that, I was like, when I was at my worst, when I was at complete rock bottom after that big crazy episode I had, I was like, well, I did all this to myself. It's the AFib doesn't happen on its own. It's all dependent on how your choices. And I was almost 400 pounds. I had everything that had happened to me was my fault. And I think that's like most of the battle. People want to look and blame their metabolism or blame well, my parents fed me. It's my fault, right? And so I was like, if I got that far back on my own, I can hopefully claw my way forward on my own. And so when I was told things that I didn't like hearing, like I had to have surgery, I was like, let me try to find people that are in similar situations. And when I heard that they were like, you don't need it, I didn't do it that way. And the more I heard that, I was like, okay, cool. Well, then I'm going to try my own thing. And if it didn't work, I would have went to the conventional methods of, I would have got the surgery done. Maybe it would have worked. Maybe it wouldn't have. Who knows? But the unconventional approach worked for me. And so from having success there, it made me go, okay, well, I can approach all kinds of things that way. And so that's kind of how I live my life still. It's I'm questioning everything. I'm always researching, looking at different avenues for different with clients and training. I'm always doing different things and trying new stuff. I'm always trying to figure it out outside of the norm, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's amazing. And you said something that really stuck out to me. In order for you to really embrace this next phase was for you to take ownership that this was your fault.
Right.
And I think that's so powerful because a lot of people, me included, it's so easy to blame. Mm-hmm. It's hard to take ownership. So tell me about that sort of change. Once you took ownership, how did your mindset change? How did you start approaching your routines, discipline? What, like just dynamically in your life, how did things change?
Well, I guess for me, I think complacency is the devil, right? And so I was comfortable in being medicated, having my diseases, and not really being proactive and trying to change anything. I was like, I have medicine, everything's cool. And then everything wasn't cool, So my truth was incorrect, I guess. I was comfortable, and then because of my comfortability, I dug myself into a deeper hole and had one of the worst experiences of my life. And so from that, I was like, I can't ever get complacent again with anything, really. I took a different approach to my job. How I became a personal trainer was outside of normal means. Everything I've done has kind of been different. I dropped out of high school at 17, got my GED, and then I was like, all right, what am I doing now? And what's funny about the I'm dropping out bit is like part of that was predicated because of this disease. I was a junior when it happened, and I was out of school and I was bummed out, and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And at the time I was really into playing guitar and whatever, but I had no idea what to do. And like my sickness was kind of the bed rest it allowed me to kind of think on what I wanted. And at first, I would say the first 3-4 years, I had no idea. And then when it got really bad, I was like, well, once I started fixing myself, I was like, I can fix others as well. And at first I wanted to just kind of do like a lifestyle blog website, write about food and stuff. Yeah. I wasn't planning to be a trainer. And then I started exercising. And what was funny is like my aunt had got me a personal trainer. And, we walked for 30 minutes on the treadmill and blah, but I was bored, man. I was bored with like that routine of that conventional exercise routine of, you just, when you're really big, you have to start slow. And I was like, okay, what's a different way to do it? And so I found the sprint protocol that I liked, and it sucked. Like it was hard on me, but it was, instead of walking for 30 minutes, I was doing things as hard as I could for, 2 minutes. And that I identified with that more. And then I found kettlebells. That's an unconventional tool. And I always wanted to figure out how to kind of take control of myself and my own way to get where I need to be, because it worked so well for me when it came to my heart disease. And that's all it was. It was just, it worked at one time, and then it worked again with my job as a personal trainer. And now it's working again with, I'm starting a lifestyle website finally, I'm going to have that done in January, and it's an exciting time,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I guess that's just this idea that, like I said, once you hit rock bottom, you kind of have to move forward. And I've always wished that, I could kind of train myself to feel like I've hit rock bottom, so that I can feel like I've got a chip on my shoulder, or like I have to move forward.
Right.
And it's always been tough for me to get into that zone. So, do you have any tips for anybody who like I said, who feels comfortable where they are in their lives?
Right.
But, can take action to move forward before something like this happens? Or
of course, yeah. So what I tell people, especially in my line of work, I deal with, people coming in that want to lose weight, or they want to, improve their fitness. And one thing for me is like, you have to look at, if you're ultimately, if you're complacent in your lifestyle and everything is cool, but there's something else you want to reach for. So say like me, first, I'll use myself as an example. When I was overweight and I was afraid to exercise, I was comfortable not exercising. And so I lost the weight through diet alone, and that was nice. But I would look at myself and I'd be like, man, I'm kind of in the opposite scenario as I was. Before I was real puffy, and now I'm kind of scrawny and loose and weird looking. And so people that are comfortable in their normal routines, you just got to look for, how can I make myself better? Because that opportunity is always there. Even if everything is firing on all cylinders, and there's always something that's falling behind that you can improve on. That's one thing that I think, thinking of performance first above anything else is the best way to keep yourself in check in terms of never getting comfortable. Because if you're always thinking about how you can better yourself, then you always have to because no one's perfect. No one can ever be perfect. You have to keep going, keep finding that thing that inspires you, and keep reaching for it. And I think that's the best way to go about everything, really. And it's all about what you want to put effort in. It could be something as simple as, if you're a couponer, you like couponing at the grocery store. We'll hustle at that, man. Be the best couponer you can be. If you play video games and that's what you love doing, hustle at that. If you are good at researching things and, talking to people, research harder than anybody else. That's like you just got to keep grinding and find that thing that keeps you challenged and always go for it. Because if you're stuck, then when you're stuck. Everyone knows when they're stuck, and no one likes it. You can pretend that you like it, but if you're stuck in a comfortable zone and you're like, man, I wish I had more to offer. Well, let's figure it out and push.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that a lot. I mean, that's a mindset that, like I said, it's not something that everybody's got. They're not born with it. What I love about working out and staying healthy and kind of, getting after it each day is this idea that every day can be day one. You don't have to, any day can be day one. You just have to decide that today is the day I'm going to be better.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this, walk me through your routine. So when you walk me through what your morning routine looks like, how do you sort of squeeze some of these, disciplines and activities into your day so that you can get the most out of it?
I wake up really early.
Okay.
I wake up at like 4:15ish, 4:30 a.m. Yeah. My first client's usually at either 5 a.m. or 5:30. So just through that alone, it's kind of taught me appreciation. It's early as hell, and then you never get used to it. It's just kind of, I'm up at 4. Here we go. And so that kind of kicks your butt every day. It's a humbling experience every day. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing. I'm big on humbling experiences. That's how I approach my workouts as well. I'm always trying to break myself. That's what I tell my clients every day. When it's time for me, when it's my turn, after the clients go home, I'm trying to break myself every single day and humble me and question what the hell I just did to myself. And that's how I keep it rolling. But what I do in the morning is I get up and I have some coffee. I started drinking coffee a lot after the whole Dave Asprey bulletproof explosion.
Right.
And I've kind of tweaked his recipe a bit. I don't put butter in it anymore because I found I really like cold brew. I like cold brew more than hot brewed coffee.
Cold brew's delicious.
I always have a batch of cold brew concentrate in the fridge, and what I do is I mix MCT oil because it's liquid at room temperature, and I just buzz that up. And that's it. Just some ice in my Yeti, and I'm out the door.
Nice.
Then I usually work between 3 to 4 hours in the morning, and then I have to do something active. So whether it's a full-on strength circuit or it could be a 10-minute kettlebell workout. It doesn't to me, the time doesn't matter really. It's all about the effort. And that's kind of what I try to portray to my clients as well. Me personally, I don't get people that go to the gym and work out for 3.5 hours. That's just not my thing. If you can kill it for 10, 20, 30 minutes, it's the same to me. So every day I have to hit I have to do something hard for 20, 30 minutes. And then I could get home. And one thing that kind of keeps me grounded is cooking. I love cooking. That was the thing I fell in love with on this journey. Learning about the paleo diet and the primal diet and that whole way of living was just to appreciate ingredients and sources of ingredients and spices and how you can make. I just fell in love with cooking, and so that's every day. I come home. My first meal is at about 1 o'clock. And I cook something. I try to make something up. I try not to look at recipes too much. I dabble. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And then after that, I take a lot of naps because I'm up so early. I try to take a 30-minute nap every day. And that's about it. And then I'm back to work from 4 to like 8. And then once I'm home, it's time to unwind. I take the nighttime to just kind of chill and put on some Netflix or something and just hang out.
Yeah, absolutely.
The absolute variables in my life are that workout after my clients are gone, and then cooking, coming home and making a meal. Trying not to go out. Trying not to go, all right, I need something quick. I want to come home, cut something up, throw it in a pan, and work to get my my bounty, if you will.
That was actually going to be my next question. What are your non-negotiables? But yeah, that sounds like, I love that. So it sounds like cooking is something that you truly enjoy. Is that something that and you know, I've always thought this, you know, kind of what makes you happy always falls back onto some principle of gratitude. Mm-hmm. So how does gratitude play a daily role in your life, and how do you make time to cultivate it? I mean, just by cooking, I feel like there's probably something that comes out.
Oh, totally.
About the process.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, from that perspective, I'm grateful for everything, just because, you know, not everyone's going to start at such a low place. You know, I started you know? Yeah. And so, I'm grateful that I got out of it. So I'm grateful for all kinds of things. I'm grateful for the way I was raised. I'm grateful for the owner of the gym I work at. You know, she really, she believed in me from the beginning, and now I've kind of, you know, woven my style of training into the fabric of that place. And it's really cool. And Laura's like the coolest person ever. When on the journey to you know, learning this paleo style of eating, I learned to just be grateful for food as medicine, basically. You know, I got off of most of my meds. I'm still on a beta blocker, which they tell me I'm probably going to have to be on for the rest of my life, maybe. And what's weird about that is it like shunts your adrenaline response. So I don't get like startled anymore. It's because I've been on it for so long. It's kind of a weird side effect. And so I can, like, my fiance kind of gets mad at me when we're arguing, because I can be like, I don't get riled up. Like, it's just kind of, she's like, why aren't you upset? It's just kind of a funny thing. But I managed to get off all those meds because I was like learning about, you know, what the benefit of high fat and supplementing with those electrolytes, what it did for me, and I'm grateful for all that knowledge that I cultivated. And so how I practice it every day, just kind of sitting in it. You know, my whole life has kind of come out of this unconventional approach. You know, I didn't do anything like I was supposed to do, if you will. You know, in high school, I was told I was going to be some, you know, I'm going to be some failing kid, or I wasn't going to be successful. And I'm doing what I want to do now. And I'm not, you know, a lot of my classmates don't have that luxury, you know, they're grinding on the corporate dime. And so I never wanted to do that. So, and I'm just grateful for the steps that I've taken, the opportunities that presented themselves. And that's how I practice gratitude. I just sit in it every day, and I think about it constantly.
I think that's beautiful. And, you know, just by hearing you talk about the way gratitude plays a role in your life, I think that, like, you've gone through a lot of crappy stuff. Yeah. Like, you've had a lot of crap happen in your life. Right. And the fact that you're so grateful on the other side of it, I think personally that's probably a testament to how much accountability you hold for yourself, which I think is one of the most amazing things about you. You take complete ownership for where you are, who you are. And I can just feel the gratitude flowing through your voice for all the things you're grateful for, instead of all the things you're not grateful for.
Right.
And I think, you know, I'm a big fan of just the concept of manifestation. And, you know, the more you focus on something you really want, the more it comes into your life. Yeah. And I think you're a living example of that, man. And I'm amazed at just how you've lived your life and built such an amazing, I don't even know how else to say it. You've just got a cool life. Like where you are now. Yeah.
It's turned out pretty cool. Yeah. You know, it all kind of fell on my lap. You know, it was funny. I was talking to Laura, who's the owner of C4 Athlete, one day, and I was telling her, like, when I decided to become a trainer, I got a job at the Y. And the reason I got a job at the Y, and the particular YMCA I chose in the Woodlands, is I knew that it was dead all the time. Like, it's a weird neighborhood. It was a brand new neighborhood, and there weren't a lot of houses yet, but I just knew there was never going to be anyone there. And it was going to give me time to study my NASM book to get my certification. But I also wanted to be in a gym, just to be in the vibe. Like, I just wanted to be surrounded by equipment and people coming in and out. I don't know why I had that thought. I was like, maybe it'll help me. And So, this was before I knew who Laura was, before I knew what C4 Athlete was. And I would just go there every day and read my book. And one day my mom called and was like, hey, one of my coworkers' daughters is a co-owner of a gym in Houston. And I told her who you are and what's been going on and, how the changes you've made. And she's interested in meeting you. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I'll go down there, So the next day I hitched on down to, it was called a Bungalow Fitness at the time. I met a girl named Angie, is Laura's partner. I didn't meet Laura till the next week, but as soon as I walked into that gym, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna work here." Like, yeah, it was just this is where I'm gonna be. I was like, in that moment, I was like, my 2 weeks are in. Tomorrow, I'm back. I'm gonna be at this place. And at the time, they were running an internship, and it was me and like I think 5 other people. And I was like, all right, cool. If there's a competitive thing, I like to compete, and I knew there was only one of us who was going to make it. So that was kind of cool to be a part of that. And so the next 2-3 weeks or so were just me going there twice a week to sit in and read the book with everybody and going through this intern program. And then one day, Laura pulled me aside after the internship and said, one of our current trainers just put in their 2 weeks. Can you get your certification in that same amount of time?
Wow.
And so when I got the job at the Y, I was like, I'm going to take all 6 months I have this book for to take my time through the certification. And so at this time it was just under 2 months. And I was like, yeah, I work better under pressure. Let's get it done. I'll get it done in 2 weeks. And that next week I tested, I passed my first time and I had a full roster of clients right away. And that's how I did it. I mean, all that just fell into my lap. It's just the craziest thing, like I had this goal of I want to work at a gym. And so I got to the Y and whatever, and then it just kind of manifested itself. It's like, that's the weirdest thing that's happened so far.
I love that story. That is the coolest thing ever. Like, and man, especially that, 6 months to 1 week.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is definitely something I've experienced, when I set deadlines for myself, or challenging deadlines that scare me.
Yeah.
It's almost like your body and whatever ounce of focus you have just kicks into hyperdrive,
right,
and you're able to crank out a lot more, which is, just amazing. So, man, yeah, I love your story, and I love that, and I think you serve as such an amazing example for a lot of different people, no matter what walk of life they're in. And just the fact that, one, if you want to make a change in your life, you can make a change. You just need to decide to do it. And right. 2, if you want something, immerse yourself in it, and it'll come to you. And you're a living, walking example of that, Edward. And I love it, man. I'm inspired by you and awesome. your story, and it's amazing. So let me ask you this: what are some of the resources that you found most helpful when you were, getting yourself healthy, getting yourself back on track? Were there books, mentors, like just other influences? Who was your biggest inspiration to keep moving?
So at the time when I was, scrambling, trying to figure out how to not be so medicated, my aunt is a life coach, and she had asked me if I had ever thought about a life coach, and I was like, no. And she was like, she couldn't coach me because we're family, but she had a friend that she was willing to pay for me to have a coach for 3 months. And I was like, cool, yeah, I'd love to talk to this person. And I remember the first phone call, and her name was Ashley Folsom, and that kind of changed my whole, it changed my life, really. Just having the back and forth was big for me. And I always had crazy ideas, and I didn't know how to, I still don't journal that much. I'll type stuff out when I'm scrambling in my head, but having just the audible back and forth of getting my ideas out and having some feedback coming back at me was huge for me, man. It was awesome. And I look forward to those calls, and I hope she's doing awesome. I haven't talked to her in years now, but she really helped me. And that's kind of what kickstarted the whole getting that job at the Y, and to immerse myself in that environment, because I wanted to sit in there and feel what it was to be at a gym all the time. And outside of her, online resources were huge. I mean, Joe Rogan and Aubrey Marcus and the whole Onnit crew over there was a huge inspiration. I remember I knew about Onnit before they opened the gym, I was, I tried their supplements. They're great, but they're just not for me. And I'm not, the two biggest inspirations, honestly, were Dave Asprey from Bulletproof and Mark Sisson from Mark's Daily Apple. When I found marksdailyapple.com, everything was primal lifestyle paleo, scientific reasons why it works. And, that's where I learned about, insulin and glucose and high fat and all that stuff. And I was like, man, this is blowing my mind. And I didn't understand why this wasn't just regular knowledge. And then, I kept up with those two throughout the years, and Onnit's still a huge inspiration. I'm actually certified. I have 2 certifications through them now, so I've been in their facility. I've met all the guys in the fitness department. They're all super cool, and that's been it. And then the most recent, I guess, addition to my life was Mark Sisson had, he started his own Primal Health Coach certification program. And I bought it and I went through it. It took like 3 months, and now I'm a primal health coach under Mark Sisson's program, which was so cool to me because he was such a huge role in my life, learning about all this stuff. So, yeah, those are the resources I use the most. On it with their unconventional tools, they use crazy stuff, maces, clubs, kettlebell, all the stuff we offer at C4 Athlete, and Dave Asprey with Bulletproof, the coffee, and Mark Sisson with all the science behind it was what kind of led me to where I am today.
Love it, dude. Love it. It's and like I said, I can't say enough good things about you. I'm inspired, and I know you've inspired a lot of people who are either going through similar health challenges or just want to be better people. So right. I appreciate it, man. I do want to ask one last question. In the midst of everything that's happened to you, that, and you've come so far, how do you stay grounded in this and not let yourself fall backwards? Like, how do you just keep the train moving, even though like you're in good shape, you're feeling good now? How do you keep that going?
Well, man, like there have been times where I've backslid a bit, fallen into old habits and gone, man, why am I eating that? Right. Or why am I doing that? And I think when I first started this journey, I was like, I'm never going to have a cheat day. I'm going to be hyper focused all the time, and nothing's ever going to happen. I didn't drink any alcohol for 2 years. I didn't have, man, I would go to restaurants and I would be like, what kind of fat did you make this in? And if they didn't use butter, I would ask if they had butter. And if they didn't have it, I was leaving. Like, that's how I was intense about it.
Yeah.
And, after a year or two of that, man, you get burnt out. You can't be that great all the time. So for me, I had to be honest with myself and go, I need to let myself have a day to kind of, if I want some dairy-free ice cream, I can have it. If I want, what's funny is like my clients ask me what a cheat day is for me. And honestly, for me, it's like having an extra serving of sweet potato chips or something. It's not as exciting as other people's cheat days. But for me, it's big, and so, yeah, I haven't been perfect, to be honest. I've had a couple of short slides where I've gained some extra weight. And, the thing about weight gain, and genetics is my family that, especially my dad's side, they're all larger people. And so it's like, I have that genetic, predisposition to gain weight easier than others. It's everyone has their genetic thing. Some people can eat, all the food in the world and they're the skinniest thing their whole life. That's just the roll of the dice. And so I have to be extra disciplined, and I'm fine with that. And so, I found a happy medium between extreme discipline and extreme obsessiveness about everything I put into my mouth, and, kind of giving myself a break, because it will wear you down. So I always say perfection is impossible. So don't even try. Like, just find your happy medium and where you feel best, and try to stick within that. Don't beat yourself up if you have an off day. Everyone has off days. That's just part of the experience. Now that doesn't mean that you go, okay, I had an off day on Friday, so I won't care about Saturday or Sunday. No. Own that day, own that Friday, and get back on track Saturday. That's just how you go about it. And yeah, that's how I approach trying to move forward. Now, there are certain things that I'll never go back to doing. I haven't touched gluten in 5 years. That's just the thing. I don't have celiac disease, but I refuse to eat gluten. There were things that would happen to me my whole life that I just attributed to me being me. And one of them was I used to swell up. So I got into jiu-jitsu years ago, and I noticed when people would grab my wrist real hard, like I would get like their finger print like welts on my wrists. And I used to get real bad heat rashes if I was in the sun for too long, and it was crazy. And I was like, yeah, that's my life. Like 3 months into no gluten, all of that stopped. And so I was like, I'm never eating a gluten again. That's like,
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And the constant. But outside of that, I was grain free for a long time, but nowadays, if I want some white rice after a hard workout, I'll eat some white rice. If I'm dairy free most of the time, but if I want some cheese on a Saturday night, I'm out with friends, I'll have a slice of pizza, gluten free, obviously. And that's, you got to find that balance. Being so hyper insane, obsessive about things I don't think it's healthy. I think you got to always give yourself a break and just take a breath and go, okay, if you mess up, own it, get back on track the next day.
I think that's a really valuable piece of advice. I think a lot of people don't even try doing things because they feel like they have to be on the other extreme.
Yeah.
And so, perfectionism, I've always thought is like the best form of procrastination.
There you go. I like that.
The more perfect you try to be, the more you talk yourself out of actually trying and just taking action.
Right.
And so I think what you just said is it's, at least for me, it makes me feel better about it's not necessarily the end result that you're craving. It's almost like the journey. So you're buying the ups, you're buying the downs. And I think that is one of the most important things. Yep. You're riding it. So anyways, Edward, dude, thank you so much for sharing your story and your thoughts with our audience. I know that I took a lot of value out of this, and I hope our audience did too. Awesome. If they wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about you and just be a part of your world, how can they do that?
You could check out my website, grindtothrive.com. Right now, I have a cover page up with a questionnaire if you want to send me any things your way. At the beginning of next year, I'll be offering health coaching services and online personal training through there. If you're local to the Houston area, you can come check me out at c4athlete.com. Schedule a session. Your first two are free. All of the trainers there are great. And on Instagram, my handle is Grind to Thrive there as well.
Love it. Grind to Thrive. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. We've got another episode of the Stay Grounded podcast locked up. Again, I'm your host, Raj Jana, and until next time, stay grounded. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Stay Grounded podcast brought to you by Java Press Coffee Company. My name is Raj, and I hope you found this interview helpful as you create your own ways to make daily happiness a priority. If you're interested in learning more about how your morning coffee can turn into a consistent source of joy in your life, visit www.javapress.com to learn how our products can help you do that, and use the coupon code PODCAST for 10% off your purchase. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Stay grounded.